Matt, I asked John this question, so I'm going to ask you. How hard is it for a guy like Darian Porter to not really be able to find a home in which he can play at a position group until corner, to be that constant guy that performs at a high level on special teams?
Yeah, I think it's, our society today, everybody wants instant gratification and reward, right? And usually doesn't want to put the time, effort, and energy into mastering whatever craft it takes to actually earn those things. And, so I think in today's world, it's really hard to find those guys, and I think Darian, even in a small amount, is probably indicative of our program in some ways, where guys get their start on special teams, they make a role for themselves, they all of a sudden become a trusted player in the program because of what they're able to do. And then it's like, you start to, okay, how can we use this guy more? And it's really what Darian's journey looked like. The reason we could have played at wide receiver. He's caught balls in games here at wide receiver. But, I think as you saw him start to excel on special teams, you're like, geez, what else can this guy do at a really high level for our football program? And that's really where that journey started. And then for him to, patiently grow into this elite corner, it's been really rewarding because, again, that's football. I think our sport is so different than basketball or wrestling. Like, this is a developmental sport. Our recruiting gurus are in here, but they got no idea who's any good, let alone us coaches, right? Like, the reality of it, football's different. It takes time, and you have to figure out who's willing to pay the price to become great. And I think Darian's just such a great example of that in this program. And so I think it's really hard to have patience. It's really hard to, not get the instant gratification of being the starter right away and just keep pounding at your craft. And boy, now a guy going to the Senior Bowl and going to be a top draft pick, and a guy that's, having an incredible senior year. But that's football. That's our sport. We're robbing it in a lot of ways, but that is still our sport in terms of what we do and what football looks like.
And Gabe Burkle, he's a guy you've trusted even last season to be on the field in big moments, but as injuries happened to Ben and Tyler, to have him emerge as the leading pass catcher in the last game, what does that say about him, and how excited have you been about his development?
Yeah, Gabe, uniquely, he's still a young pup. For Gabe, I probably feel the same way sometimes, Rob, of Gabe, and probably challenge him because I feel like he's, been in here in our program forever, but, he's still he's a redshirt sophomore and just a young puppy, like, still growing. And we ask so much of Gabe. He's so trusted that he starts on all the special teams. He was still, even before Ben got hurt, was averaging almost 55 plays, 60 plays a game. So, I think just his role took a different tune a little bit on Saturday, and none of those things surprised any of us because we knew he was a great pass catcher. We certainly knew he had all those kind of abilities. Just the ball kind of swung his way due to what the defense was doing. And, again, great for that guy to make the plays in the moment because I think they'll only continue to come to him. But just really happy for him. He's another guy kind of cut out of the same mold as Darian, just whatever it takes for the betterment of the team and willing to do whatever it takes for our team to be successful.
Touching back on Darian a moment, he's received a lot of recognition in the pre-draft process stuff. He said that he never thought that he would make it to this point, but did you guys have a belief that he might have an opportunity to play at the next level?
Well, he has elite traits, and in the elite traits, speed is obviously one of them, and he had that since obviously his exceptional, coming out of high school and what he did in the 200 and his ability to run. All those things were certainly there. But I think for Darian, the biggest thing is his humility, and that's part of it, but I also think earn confidence. And it's been really fun to watch him earn the right to be confident and proud. We talk about that in our football program. Some guys have confidence, but they don't have any substance to that, where Darian, he's worked so hard to step on the football field and have real confidence. And I think that's why he's getting so much positive recognition from outside of our walls, and because he's really earned the right to be a confident football player. Some of the plays he's made this fall is maybe as good as any defensive back that we've had since we've been here. Just, those are really hard, tough plays to make, and it's really exciting for him to be able to have these moments, and I think his moments will only continue because he's earned the right to be a great football player.
To stay with DP, you talked about how much development he's done. John compared him to Hummel. Do you look at those guys as, are they late bloomers, or is that are we just asking too much too early of guys, we being from the outside here?
Yeah, I would say I think in our sport we ask a lot of, again, this sport is not basketball. Basketball, kids grow up, by 14, 15, you probably have a pretty good idea what the end potential of a basketball player is. Wrestling, you probably have that. Baseball, I think in our world now that you play so much baseball, but football, I just think it's such a hard sport to pinpoint what does development truly look like. And, again, you're asking young people to leave home for the first time, start back over and be at the bottom of the roster and build yourself back up. And there's just so much that goes with our sport in that regard. But I think the thing that I would circle back to is both of those guys had unbelievable mentality. They're really mentally tough, and Darian's got a great parents, came from a great high school football program in Bettendorf. They won football games. You look at Jake, played for Coach Wilson, and what those guys had done during his time there. And I think the one ingredient it goes back to is recruit tough kids, recruit kids that you really feel like will develop and become their best, and take the star system and shove it, and take the reality of, hey, what are these kids have the ability? Will they stay the course? Will they actually reach their full potential? And, again, I circle back to even that verbiage of reach your full potential. Like, how many guys, when we'll look back at this time in college football, how many guys failed to reach their full potential? My guess is you're probably going to be around 80% that failed to become the best version of themselves that they could be. And, because there's a lot of noise. And, for these kids to stay the course and become 5th and 6th year seniors and be able to do those things, I think that's remarkable. And obviously the impact then it has on everybody else that's inside the walls and the young players in the program. Those things are transformational habits that, you end up giving back, and not even knowing that you're giving it back. But, I've always said, young players, they want to know what's the best players doing. What did they do? What was their journey? And when those guys become great players in your program, like Jake did, and certainly what Darian's done, and you even look at this senior class, I mean, almost all of them have stood the test of time here and have had ups and downs. But man, I think their staying power, their grittiness, their toughness to be able to reach their full potential, I think it's just had a profound impact on some of these young guys have stepped in and been able to play because I think they see the leaders and how they prepare.
What's Singleton's status?
Yeah, probably up in the air right now. I think, we were really worried that it was going to be season ending. It's not. So that's a huge win for JR and certainly a huge win for Iowa State. Did not practice today. We'll see if he's going to be able to practice tomorrow, but I would still say he's in a really good spot in terms of questionable for this weekend, and we'll just navigate it throughout the rest of the week. It is his arm. Yep.
A couple times this year, you guys have gone with a fake punt. And I hope this isn't too nitty gritty into things and how you make decisions. But at certain times you've gone with a fake punt, other times you've decided to go for it on 4th and short. How do you as a coach decide what strategy is best for you guys to find success?
Yeah, I don't think you ever really know, to be quite honest with you. I think a lot of it is a feel. Now, there is sometimes you go into a game, at least early in a game, and, some of our 4th down decisions early in games have happened, but, you kind of felt like maybe there was going to be a rhythm to success in a game. But I think that's the crazy thing about our sport. The fool gets up here and says, hey, we're just going to do that all the time. Well, I think that's foolish. I think the reality of it is, what's the rhythm of the game? And can you either have the rhythm or you don't, and you're trying to sustain it with some of those choices, or you're trying to gain it. And, I feel like for me, that's my job, my responsibility. It's to get the team in the rhythm of the game to win the football game. And, so I think some of those things are personnel driven. Do we have a great matchup? Man, do we feel like, hey, we're going to have to score a lot of points in this game to win the game? Do you feel like, man, the defense is playing good? Do you feel like, hey, you don't have the rhythm? We got to try to make something happen. I think all those things come into mind, in my opinion, when you try to make a decision like that. It's not just, hey, we're going to go do it. It's like, is it the right situation? Is it the right time? Does it give us a real chance to do it? And then you try to make the right call. And honestly, man, we've made some calls and they've worked. And, there's a couple, man, 4th and 2s, there's 2 of them that, man, we didn't gain, and it probably had a huge impact on the football game. And so, it's the world we live in, and those are tough decisions. But that's really what you're trying to do as the football coach, is trying to give your team the best chance to win the game.
And I guess a similar line of questioning, how similar or different, I guess, is a fake punt or a fake field goal than maybe the decision to run a 2-point play, in terms of, do you have a certain amount of these and you want to bank them and not use them again because it's that on film and people
Right.
can scheme against it type of situation? Like, how do you evaluate that whole dynamic, I guess?
Yeah, I think you always just want to have the best tools, and sometimes you're not going to have some of those tools based on what the opponent does. I think I think those are all things that's why you study the film as obsessively as you do to see, man, are there opportunities to gain a possession in a game? Is there opportunities to sustain a possession in a football game? And man, is the other team going to try to do some of those things against you? And I think all those things are why you strain, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to try to figure out what tools do you have at your disposal to find that rhythm to win the football game.
Hey, man, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, it seems like opponents have had increased success running the ball against you guys. Is that an area of concern for you guys, or do you go, hey, we have a top 20 scoring defense, it's good, the yards are going to come either way?
Well, I don't feel that way. I feel like, if we're not where we want to be in certain areas, we're straining to get to where we want to be, and that would be an area I think for sure that, we need to continue to strain to shore up, and I felt like we've taken some positive steps there. We got to continue to be better, and man, what's that look like? I think it globally looks like a lot of different things. You got to tackle better. You got to be better at the point of attack in some areas. Getting some players back helped some of that last week, but I think the reality of it is all those things are things that are important when you look at the grand scheme of, I don't think, you want to be a complete offense and a complete defense. And, believe me, there's areas in all three phases of the game that we're still not as complete as we would like to be in straining to try to get to be our best.
What do you attribute the holes in the run defense to?
Yeah, just some of those things that really I just talked about. I think, again, you strain in to tackle better, strain in to be better at the point of attack at different times. I think, again, health of our football team, getting guys back, asking a lot of some young guys in some certain situations. So I think all those things, man, we've had a lot of injuries in the front 6 to 7 guys. So you've had a lot of guys that are, playing different spots at times for us. So I think that's the fun thing about probably getting a little bit healthier is you feel like you have a lot more confidence to maybe get back to who we want to be and certainly what the standard that we want to be in some certain areas on really both sides of the football.
Coach, now obviously looking ahead to this week, a new opponent. You have to obviously travel to Salt Lake City to face Utah with a loud environment. I know their team hasn't looked the greatest, especially with injuries, kind of like how you guys are. What have you kind of seen from their team as you prepare to head there?
Well, I would say, as Utah's come in, Coach Whittingham, and I don't know him, but man, my respect factor would be maybe one of the best coaches in college football and championship level football. It doesn't matter what conference they've been in. And when you watch the video, their championship level football team, I mean, this is bar none the best defense that we'll have played. I mean, you're talking about, you look at their front 7, all, 5th and 6th year seniors, some of the best defensive players in the country at their position. Man, you just look at this football team and gritty, tough, and I mean they've been through heck and back with injuries, and they've been right there to win all these football games. And so I think it just tells you about the character of what resides there and at Utah. And man, the challenge for Iowa State football and this young team to go out in this environment, man, what a great opportunity, but what an unbelievable challenge, to be quite honest with you. I mean, the respect that I think myself, our kids, our coaches have for what we're about to face is first class. And so yeah, all the respect in the world for this type of program and certainly what Coach has done and sustained there at Utah.
Hey, Coach, what have you seen from Joey Peterson and how he's progressed and stepped up, especially as a senior?
Yeah, I would put Joey, as probably, if not the most consistent football player this fall for Iowa State, one of the top most consistent players. And, Joey really had a great fall camp. And obviously Joey's a guy, again, as a freshman here, ran down on kickoff, and then, man, his career, it just took off from there. And dependable, tough, and honestly one of the great leaders on this 2024 Iowa State football team. And geez, what he's meant to Iowa State, obviously what his family has meant to Iowa State is second to none. But yeah, Joey is just a tough, gritty football player that's played elite every single game this fall for us, so we're really grateful for him.
We saw Dominic Orange make those big plays that one series, and then with J.R. Singleton's status in doubt, it seemed like Dom moved inside a little more. Do you think that's an area of strength for him, and how can he make a bigger impact maybe in that spot filling in for J.R.?
Yeah, I think anytime Dom's on the field is a strength for Iowa State, to be honest with you. I mean, you've seen him, play great at defensive end, and you've seen him play great at nose. I think the biggest thing is his health. And, I think that was a devastating blow. Baylor, it's really been a tough grind for him. And for him to finally be back, I think, closer to full strength, and you saw that Saturday, I thought it was really big. I'd say Zamir is equally playing great football. So, it gives us the ability to still have flexibility with where we move those guys and what happens. But, I just think having Dom on our football field and playing back to full strength is really big for our football team, and we'll need him to be great as we continue to move forward.
Yeah, Matt, not to make too much of a play that happened last week, but we've talked to a lot of guys about the fake punt and how that play has been in the playbook for a while now, and to finally get a chance to call it and execute it as well as you did, what was the satisfaction in that moment? I think TV cameras got a little bit of a smile from you.
Yeah. Well, I just think from our end of it, I've watched our kids strain, and that is, we are playing much better football in special teams because our kids strain to be really good. You got to work at it. I've always said in special teams, 17% of the snaps, so a small amount of the snaps, but almost 40% of the yardage exchanged in a game. And there's just got to be high buy-in value from your football team if you want to be great on special teams and actually use special teams as a weapon to be successful. And I feel like we finally have, turned the tide into allowing that to be a weapon in our football program. Our kids care their investment. And so when you watch our kids strain to invest in special teams, and because that means you got to spend extra time, not just in your offensive video and then your defensive video, then you got to come back here and make an extra 10 to 15 minutes and sit in that special teams room and make sure you know what's being asked. That's probably my joy, to watch these kids who are endlessly straining to become their best. And like I said, Jacob Ellis has a great block on that play. Freshman Bo Goodwin, who we've asked, was playing 8-man football 2 years ago, asked to come here and take this monster role in our football team. Then you got Gabe Burkle, who's the guy that had this unbelievable game. Well, we just keep asking him to be on the field, and he's got the kick-out block to kind of seal it. And then obviously Steve-O, who, he said he ran fast. It didn't look very fast. If he was any faster, he would have scored, and we would maybe it could have breathed a little bit better. You know what I mean? But the reality of it is, those kids have straining to be great, and what they're doing for Iowa State football is incredible. And so that's the reward as a coach, is you work really hard at this craft to become your best. And again, football's funny. There's only 12 games that you're guaranteed, and there's only so many moments, and you work all year to try to be your best in the moment. And that was just a big moment of time in the football game, and obviously it ended up being a huge play because it gave us a 2-score lead, and Kyle makes a great kick, and that was awesome. But I think that's probably the joy as a coach, is those are huge moments, and we were able to execute in a critical moment.